Studies have shown violence and crime rates have dropped tremendously due to school uniforms being mandatory in schools. Being a student in a public school where we dress how we choose, there is more violence in comparison to the private school down the street where they have to wear uniforms. Students should be required at all schools to wear a uniform. Today, I will persuade you that school uniforms should be mandatory in all schools. For me to better explain myself on why uniforms need to be mandatory, I will discuss how they bring equality among students, they drop crime rates, and also create less distractions in the classroom. This brings me right along to my first point I would like to discuss, which is the equality among students when they wear uniforms. Students will become equal as far as their clothing in the classrooms. All students will be wearing the same thing, which means no one will feel above or below the other. Bullying has decreased tremendously due to this. School intervention programs reported that bullying has reduced by 30 to 50% due to school uniforms. When kids wear the same clothes, there is much less judgment involved. Also, those students who are less fortunate feel insecure about coming to school in their own clothes. So when they're wearing the same clothes as everybody else, they feel much more comfortable. School uniforms also create less distractions in the classroom. Students will not have time to judge each other and focus on the newest trends on what the kids are wearing. They will have to focus on their teacher and the education of what is going on because they will all be wearing the same thing. Versus in a public school where the trends might be involved and different outfits will be worn, so the attention will be on the clothing and not on their education. Now that I have discussed how school uniforms make students feel more equal, I will move on to discuss how crime rates decrease in schools. Violence and gang activity has dropped tremendously after uniforms were enforced. If there is an intruder, it is much easier to spot them because they will not be wearing the basic uniform all the other students are wearing. Also, it makes it much harder for gang members to identify themselves. Gang members like to wear certain pieces of clothing that like to present what gang they are in. So if uniforms are involved, this will not be possible. Theft has decreased as well. Expensive jewelry and clothing will not be worn, so that means it will not be stolen. 34% of middle school students and 20% of high school students admitted that they felt that they were become victims of school violence. This is in public schools. In private schools, the percentage is much lower. Baggy clothes make it easier to hide weapons. In public school, this is a big problem because baggy clothes they're able to wear baggy clothes in public schools versus private schools where they can wear tighter clothes and it's much harder to identify if there's a weapon under their clothing. The crime rate in schools has decreased due to this, but the attendance rate has actually gone way up. The presence of uniforms have made the attendance of students improve drastically. It takes a lot of time in the morning for people to get ready, especially for public schools like myself. I spend a lot of time in the morning picking out my outfit versus in a private school where I can just pick out an outfit that everybody else is wearing and I won't have to focus on it. The average absent rate for girls in middle and high school decreased by 7% after the introduction of uniforms in their school. School uniforms also make students feel unified. When they are all wearing the same thing, they feel much more unified in the classrooms. In workforces, when they all have to wear the same thing, they know that they have that outfit on and they are there to work. And if they have on a uniform, they know they have their uniform on to learn. So when they come home from school, they can take their uniform off and they can relax. Researchers found that schools that have uniforms has decreased in tardiness and increase in academic focus. Today, I have persuaded you of the many effects school uniforms have on students. We have discussed how school uniforms make students feel equal because there's not room for bullying and everybody is wearing the same outfits. Reduced crime rate in schools. Gang activity will not be related. Intruders will be much harder to identify and weapons will be much easier to identify if students have them. And increase the attendance in schools because it's much easier to get ready in the morning and pick out your outfit because everybody will be wearing the same thing. School uniforms are the step to making school a little bit more great. And I hope I have your support as we move into the future with increasing uniforms at schools and making them a mandatory uniform for everybody to wear. Thank you all so much for listening, and I hope I have you on board.